Welcome back to my channel. And this is my vlog. I'm gonna be traveling today. Today is October 9th. It's a Friday, and I'm traveling to Indiana to see my ex-partner, which he's my best friend. And he had surgery this past Monday. He had surgery this past Monday, so I'm gonna help him, recuperate, help him around. So most of you know that I have chronic illness, and I'm kind of nervous with the thought of traveling because especially that we are still going through Corona, and I haven't traveled since 2018, so obviously a lot has changed since then. I'm kind of nervous. I'm trying to take a lot of precautions on that, but unfortunately, the way my flight is set up, social distancing is not happening in this flight that I'm at. I'm gonna record the journey, and if you're new to the channel, hi. And you're welcome to subscribe. I'm gonna always have issues saying it, and give it a like, so then anybody going through the same thing as I am, going through chronic illness, they could see the struggles that we go through. I'm kind of nervous. It's already, did I mention, 4:40 in the morning? So I'm kind of like tired. As you can see, I'm a little bloodshot, but I got my war paint on, ready to conquer the day, and join me. I hope you enjoy. And if you have any thoughts, comments, you could leave it at the leave me a little message, and I'll definitely read. All right, stay tuned. Well, I made it through TSA, so I guess if you can see, I am covered. My face is covered. I look like a ninja with multicolored. So I made it through TSA, the check-in. It wasn't so bad. It was crowded, definitely, but it's a long walk to the gate. So right now I'm sitting here waiting to board. I'm way early, but I hate being late. I'm an early bird when it comes to traveling, so I'm very patient about it. So see, I'm in waiting area. So I will be taking the flight from New York, and I have to make a pit stop to North Carolina, and then from there to take a connecting flight to Indiana, because unfortunately there's no direct flights going into Indiana. So my next stop will be North Carolina, and wish me luck. It's gonna be interesting. Finally landed in Indiana, Indianapolis International Airport. My first time here. Never been here. The flight was smooth, so no craziness. Now I'm gonna claim my baggage and head to my friend's house. I'll talk more about this whole experience. Hi everybody, welcome back, and it's already about 3 o'clock in the morning, And if I'm whispering, it's because I don't want to disturb everybody. My friend which I'm still in Indiana. He's awake, but you know, the neighbors in this building, they can hear almost anything here. So I'm trying to keep it low. Anyway, I'll be leaving about 3:30 to go back to the airport and head home. So I'm gonna have to make a stopover at Charlotte, North Carolina, and then there I'll take a connecting flight to go to New York. So this is gonna be a long morning for me. So I'm gonna show bits of my travel going back home, and I'm definitely gonna give you my input on regarding about going and coming back in the travels, and you know, things that I experienced and things that I think you guys should need to know regarding to traveling if you have chronic illness. Okay, so stay tuned, and you're gonna see my travel going back home. Well, I made it to the airport and there's nobody here, so I'm super early just because my car service, they have very few drivers, so I wanted to make sure I got here. But this is how the airport in Indianapolis looks. Empty. Maybe one person, but totally empty. Nobody around. So I gotta wait a while before people start showing up, and then I might check in, and hopefully won't be as crazy as my venturing to Indianapolis. So stay tuned. So we just landed at Charlotte International Airport. So I am trying to find my next gate, which will be leaving in an hour and 20 minutes.
Welcome to Charlotte International.
This is how packed it looks.
By order of the government of North Carolina, pursuant to the state code. Face coverings are now required throughout the airport for travelers, visitors, and airport employees and workers, subject to certain limited exceptions.
It's very packed. So it's hard to maintain social distancing like this. I'm hungry, but I'm gonna wait till I get home. I'm not in the mood for fast food.
Hi, I'm Vi Lau, Mayor of the City of Charlotte. Welcome to the Queen City and Charlotte Douglas International Airport. As the nation's 15th largest city, Charlotte is one of the top 5 fastest-growing large cities in the United States.
Everybody's traveling today.
We hope you have a great experience in our big city. Small signs of come on.
As you can see, social distancing is non-existent. Finally landed here in LaGuardia. Just got off the plane. It was a bumpy ride, but a lot to talk about. It's not so crowded compared to Charlotte, as you can see. At after this, I will give you my input about traveling. Okay? Stay tuned. Hi, everybody. I am finally back home. And this is like the day after. Yesterday, I was flying home. And then I got home. I was really tired, so I had to recuperate. I was up for 35 hours. So imagine that. You know, when I have to travel, I get a lot of anxiety. So I just can't sleep. And once I got home and settled in, that's when my body said, "Guess what? We're not doing anything else after today." So here we are. This is already Wednesday. No, Tuesday. You see, I'm still kind of delayed. It's Tuesday, and I wanted to share my input, my thoughts about traveling, because this specific video that I'm put together is basically my experience traveling to and from the places that I needed to get to. And I wanted to share my experience as a person with chronic illness, how it felt for me as a traveler, how to what I felt about this whole experience. And I'm not bashing any type of airline. I'm not gonna tell you which airline I flew in, because I don't want no repercussions from anybody. I am just talking about my experience and sharing my input with you guys, so you could have a better understanding what is really going on. Now, when I left New York to go to Charlotte a few weeks ago, because it's been like 3 weeks since I've been in Indiana. Going there, my experience in the airport itself, yes, they do have like making sure people stay apart from each other, especially if you got to go through the TSA. There's like markers along the way that you have to stay apart from the next person. So I did follow that guideline. Excuse me, my allergies are acting up. So that was enforced there. Once I got to the gate, there was people around, but it wasn't as crowded, and it was okay. But when it came to to form that line to scan our ticket before boarding, I mean, it's hard to remain distant from each other because of the fact that the section we were at is not exactly a huge section. There's a certain gates like A, B, C, whatever the gate number it was. So it was kind of hard to maintain like 6 feet apart from the next person. So lining into to board, it was I won't say it was no social distancing on that one. I did remain, having my mask on. I did have gloves on throughout the whole travel, because I even brought extra gloves with me to keep in case of my gloves, break or whatever the case is, or I decide to eat, and I'll throw those out and I'll have the extra ones in my bag. So I had that. I even had my own hand sanitizer, just to make sure that I take extra precaution for myself. But getting into the plane, there's no distancing. So that's really hard to do, especially it's a small aircraft. The first plane, it had like 3 seats on each side. So I was supposed to sit in the middle, but some jerk was like, when he saw me, approaching my seat area, he looked at me like I had like 3 heads. And he's like, "Oh, you're sitting here." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is my seat." So Once I sat down, he was just like very rude. Like, oh, it should be against the law. This, because you can't have too many people together, but it was a full flight. I even checked myself to see if I could sit separately from somebody else. And when they tell you, oh, they're practicing social distancing even inside the planes and sitting stuff, no, there's no social distancing in the airline itself, in the sitting positions that they had people in. Everything is as normal as it can get. They do require you to wear masks at all times. The only time you have an exception if you have some sort of food that you're consuming. And no, they don't have food on the airplane itself. They're not allowing any type of food serving. But if you bring it on board and you happen to eat, they allow you to have a little bit of a chance to eat. But then the minute you're done consuming your food, then you put your mask on. I don't know how good that purpose is, because especially you're in a small aircraft and you have people sitting next to you and you're practically breathing in the same air. I don't see the common sense of not having this virus spread. Um, and I'm not trying to put out fear. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to make people scared about what can happen. I'm just saying, me logically thinking about this. Now, once we got there, on that first flight, we got to the destination. This particular flight, it wasn't organized correctly on the, people leaving. Everybody pretty much got up. Like, they acted like it's a normal flight, no big deal. Everybody getting up, getting their stuff, everybody on top of each other. It was just weird. And I was expecting a better, more organized way of coming off the flight without everybody not integrating with each other. But yet they don't want nobody integrating on the aisles when you're on flights. So again, here we go. Where, it becomes a little bit of a problem. You're contradicting one thing, but then when you're trying to get out of a plane, everybody and the mother wants to get out and everybody wants to gather together at the same time. So I just felt it was just odd, you know? Now, when I landed in Charlotte, going to Indiana, not at the airport, the airport, it was packed. It was definitely packed. I personally did not eat anything that day because I seen a lot of the restaurants that were full. They have shops and stuff like that open, but I was just like I was turned off because I really was struggling on trying to keep myself together, and and I was like, you know what, I'll wait till I arrive over there and eat something. I just was not feeling the urge to eat at the airport and congregating with people, because unfortunately you're not allowed to bring food into the airport. You can only buy at the airport, so that's the downside. But at the gate where I was waiting for my flight, it was crowded, but everybody tried to maintain their distance from each other. But it's still the same problem of trying to keep 6 feet apart. It's not happening, especially when you have a crowd of people trying to board. And same problem again, that everybody boards and everybody and the mother is trying to pack their stuff and everybody's pretty much on top of each other waiting, so it makes it kind of hard. And this second flight going towards Indiana, and I'm looking up because I'm trying to remember how it was. This was an older plane. Um, and it was pretty much, very not modernized in the aesthetics look. And I'm not trying to criticize on that, but you could tell it's an older craft. And when you board the second plane, they hand you these lovely little thing for you to take with you into the craft. So they hand it to you as you board on the plane. They give it to you. And I'm assuming what they want you to do is clean your area of your seating area of where you're gonna sit. Now, it's kind of hard to actually do it because when you're boarding in coach or economy seats, you know that there's no room to be standing up and bending over without bumping into somebody else. So it's kind of hard for me to do that, to open this little packet and clean my seat with this. So luckily, I had my clothes and I took off my clothes and washed my clothes, and I had my gloves and try to stay as clean as possible. But I don't see the common sense if the airline is telling everybody that, yeah, they're making sure that these seats are thoroughly clean before anybody boards. And yes, I've been reading that a lot online. And if anybody has a question about that, you could Google it, and these stories are coming up that, yeah, the airline is preparing, making sure that any person that boards on plane, that the seats are being thoroughly cleaned and disinfected. But yet when you're boarding, they're handing you these things. So I don't see the common sense of that because there's no way you could properly clean a seat without bumping into somebody else that's sitting next to you. I just don't get it. And especially if we are paying a lot of money to travel, I think that's to be expected from their part to make sure that we are being protected in sterilizing these planes before anybody goes on it. So that was my experience going there. Coming back home, it wasn't bad. Like the first plane, it was not bad. Everybody kept their distance from each other. It was more organized getting on board. Like they made sure people came in like in shifts, but everybody maintained respect with each other and keeping each other distant. I was sitting the first plane going back to, I was flying from Indianapolis back to Charlotte on yesterday's flight. I was sitting next to an older gentleman. Yes, it was one person, an older gentleman. And yep, they give you another this for you to clean your seat. And that was impossible. It was impossible, especially that the older gentleman, he was very heavy set. There was no way that I was going to be able to do anything. Sitting up, bending over, nothing. So I sucked it up and pretty much dealt with it. And again, I had my gloves. I had my mask. I did not eat anything yesterday. So I try to keep as minimum contact with people as possible in my part. And luckily the trip wasn't as long because it's like an hour and change to get to Charlotte, from Indiana to Charlotte. So it was a good thing. But once I landed in Charlotte, oh, mamma mia, that it was definitely felt like a Monday. it was so packed. It was just like, it was busy like crazy. I felt like if I was in like in like in Midtown, walking around in Times Square and everybody and the mother is out. It was packed. And once I got to my plane, and I'm going to put a picture of how packed it was in my area, I'm going to put a picture in it. And there was no social distancing whatsoever in that section of, because it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 6 gates in one corner, like one area. So everybody was there. And people were sitting on the floor, people congregating together. The seats, certain people were trying to keep each other away from each other, but still, it was a lot of people. So I had to wait like practically like 2 hours for my next flight. And so once they started calling us, it's hard to social distance to get on the plane again. Boarding was kind of hard. But once I was able to board, I was sitting next to like a kid, like a teenager, and then I guess his father. We were sitting together, and I was sitting by the window seat. So, and they did not hand me no wipes this time. They did not hand me no wipes at all. And it was okay. It was an okay flight. I mean, it was kind of turbulent, but that was to be expected because they were expecting high winds in New York City, so that was to be expected. But once I got there, I was able to to get home. But and just to let you know, if you're traveling into New York State, there was a rule that was changed. They done away with the quarantine list, since there's like a high rate of COVID happening in all the states that we're mentioning. And since Indiana was one of the states, they were implementing, in order to travel into New York State, you have to take a test 3 days in advance of traveling and show that you're not positive, but show you're negative on that test, and have that proof on hand when you go and travel to New York State. Now, that rule was implemented on this weekend, which was Saturday. And I was like, no, I'm not taking that test because I can't find on a Sunday morning. I'm not going to start going crazy looking for an urgent care to take a test. So I sucked it up and I said, I'm just going to fill out the form, the New York State requirement form, because there's also a form that anybody traveling into New York State, you have to fill out that form online. And I did do that. I did comply. And I took a proof of that copy of that form to take with me. And when I arrived there to New York State, they have like the National Guard standing on that gate, wanting to see the proof if you took that time to fill it out online. If not, they'll make you fill out that form right there, right at that spot. And all I did was show my paper. Yeah, I took it online, and he was like, "You're good to go." But they haven't implemented yesterday the requirement, but it is happening this week, that it is required that 3 days in advance, if you're traveling to New York State, you have to take that COVID test. And if you're a resident, I think even a traveler, if you are here in New York State, and if you are 3 days after you arrive here, you have to take another COVID test and show that you are negative. Did I say positive? I think I said positive before. you have to show negative before you come into New York State, and if you're, you know, in New York State, 3 days later, you have to take another test, and then you have to show you're negative. So both, you have to be negative twice. So that's, that's the rough part. And yes, and it's gonna be expensive trip. But if you show you're negative on the second test, then you could go on be about your business and do what you gotta do. Now, for anybody what I feel is, if you are severely sick, that you gotta worry about traveling, then I would not recommend anybody to do that, to travel at this time. But I know there are situations that you have to travel. Like mine was an emergency because my friend was having surgery and he doesn't have family out there. So he knows me for 11 years. So I felt really guided to help him. And he needed the help. He was there for me when I got sick and when I had surgery. So it's basically was right for me to do that. So I took that chance of knowing that I'm sick myself, but to be there, it was important for me. And so I took that chance. But if in those circumstances, if you really need to travel because of an emergency of a loved one or whatever, then you do what you got to do. But if you're just traveling for nilly-willy and having chronic illness that you got to really be careful with yourself, I would not risk it. Because I've seen an article last week regarding about the airlines are saying, that we're sterilizing and making sure everything, and you're not going to catch corona on the plane and blah, blah, blah. I really don't. I'm sorry. I'm really negative on this one, but I don't know. I'm not confident with that thought. And I'm not trying to implement fear, but also I know I experienced COVID, and it's not a fun thing to have. And I just want to display this video to say, hey, take care of yourself, be smart about it. And if you need to travel, take extra precautions on how to care for yourself while traveling. And I think that's the point I'm trying to get at with this video, is just take extra precaution, take care of yourself, and be smart. Because yes, you're paying money to travel, yes, but also I think the airline's responsibility is making sure they sterilize these aircrafts before anybody boards on the next plane flight. And if they are doing it or not doing it, I don't know. It's not like I work for them and I can see what they're doing. I don't know. And I'm not going to say they're not doing it. But if they're handing you wipes like this before you board, then it leaves you questioning why they're doing it. I don't know. They didn't even specify why they're giving it away. Because I have my hand sanitizer in my bag. And I've been using it. So I don't know what's the purpose of this. Anyway, this is it for this particular video. I'm going to add my other vlog of my other videos that I took along the way when I was in Indiana, my little travel scenic tours. And it's going to be all chopped up, but hey, I'm just putting it out there so you guys can see how beautiful this state is. Alrighty, so I hope if you like the video, this content, give it a like, and if you're new to the channel, you're welcome to subscribe, and I'll see you soon in my next video. Bye.